everyone, welcome to my brand new Christmas is Coming series. This is all about batch making cards. So I'm going to show you some simple card ideas that you can batch make so that you have a huge pile of cards by the end of November ready to send out in December to all your family and friends. So decide how many cards you want to have at the end of the month and divide it by 5, and that's how many you need to make of each of the card designs as you find them posted on YouTube. I have made a little PDF file to go along with this card series. If there are any little templates, they'll be included, but mainly it's for the card measurements for each of the card designs. So if you want that, pop along to my blog, click on the email button which is on my right hand sidebar, and you can email me and say please send me the PDF file, and I'll be happy to do that. So here's the first card design in this series. This is all about using your punches or your die cuts in order to achieve this fun look. You can mix and match the colours as you see fit. I'm using a Christmas tree punch, but you could use other Christmas shapes, and I will show you, give you hints and tips along the way on how to measure up punches that you might have in your collection. So as I said, you can mix and match the colours to make this card as well as the little punch that you will be using. So I've got a Christmas tree punch. It's a lovely Christmas shape and it's very easy to recognise that this is a Christmas card. The punch I used is a paper shapers punch, or I think they used to be called well punches, and my tree is about 1 3/4 inches high, just to give you an idea of the sort of size of punch that you can use on this card design. You could also achieve the same effect using some of the Christmas dies that you might have in your collection. So it doesn't have to be a punch, it could also be a die. So breaking this down into steps so that they are easy to batch make. First of all, I'm going to prepare and fold the bases and add the red card strip to the front of the card, and I'm going to call that step 1. So I've decided how many cards I'm making. You will need to do the same, and then I've cut that many bases. The bases measure 8 inches square, so you'll be able to get one card from one piece of craft cardstock, and that includes the actual craft card where we're going to punch the shapes. So cut 8-inch squares and then score and fold them at the 4-inch mark. That makes a DL card, and you're going to do that for all of your card bases. So as I said before, you'll also have a piece of card left over that you can make the craft topper for your card, and you'll need a frame or a mat for each of those cards. I'm choosing to make my mats in red. So cut your remaining pieces of craft cardstock so they measure 3 by 7 inches, and then the red cardstock measures 3 1/4 by 7 1/4 inches. So to finish off step 1 in this batch making process, you can take that red cardstock and attach it to your card front. So you're going to attach it centrally and you're going to attach it flat. So you could either use glue or double-sided tape. I'm going to be using double-sided tape, and I'm going to attach each of those red strips to the card fronts that I have already prepared. And then just centralise them on the card fronts. So for the second step, I'm going to show you how to measure for any die or punch that you might be using. I'm going to show you the process of getting the spacing right on your card topper. I've got a piece of scrap card that measures 3 by 7 inches, and I'm just going to draw in roughly 3/8 of an inch down from the top where the cord on this card is positioned. So I'm just going to sketch that in first. So you're going to need to do this on a scrap of card or paper for yourself, depending on what punch or die you're using to create your shapes. And if you happen to have the punch that I'm using, then these are the measurements. So I've literally just drawn in the line roughly where the thread is going to sit at the top of the card. And then I want to centre my little Christmas tree top and bottom in the area that's left. So I've punched out a Christmas tree, and I'm going to use that as my guide. So I'm going to centre it top and bottom, and then I'm just dropping it down a little bit because I know that I want to put a gem at the top of my tree. And then I'm going to measure the distance between the actual trunk and the base of the card. So that measures 1/4 inch. And I have to say the Tim Holtz ruler makes all these measurements really easy because you can line them up against the grid and you don't have to measure twice and then join the two dots to get each of the lines that you need, the guidelines that you need in order to be able to punch your card toppers accurately. So that's my baseline, and that's 1/4 inch from the bottom of the cardstock, and you will have a different measurement if you're using a different punch. The next thing that I want to do is, using my spare Christmas tree, I need to judge where I'm going to punch my first Christmas tree. So I've already got my baseline that I can use to measure or to position the trunk of the tree. Now I need to find the vertical line that will be a line that runs centrally on my punch. And I'm just positioning my tree where I want it from the edge of my card, and then I'm going to measure to the center point of the tree from the right hand edge of the card. And that measurement for me is 3/4 inch. So I'm going to draw my first line at 3/4 inch. Drawing my first line at 3/4 inch, that gives me my first punch line or centre line for my first Christmas tree. Don't forget, when you do these measurements for real, you're going to be doing them in pencil on your card toppers. So you can see now I can line up the base and the centre of my Christmas tree. Then, positioning my little Christmas tree on those two lines, I'm just going to draw around it so I can see what I'm doing as I move to create the line for the second tree. Then you want to move your punch or your die over and decide on the gap between the two trees. Now you'll see here I do this slightly wrong because I do want a slightly bigger gap than I've got presently. So I will add 1/4 inch to the measurement that I actually get, but you can see the principle from this video. So I'm just drawing in the position of my second tree, and actually only measures 1¼ inches between the two centre points, but I'm going to increase this to 1½ inches because I just want my tree a little bit further away. So you can decide how far apart your punches need to be depending on the shape. Depends how much you'll space them out, and then you're going to draw another vertical line at the 1½ inch point. It was taken from the first centre line that we drew, so now I'm going to draw another line 1½ inches from that. And that gives me my second measurement, and then because I know I want them evenly spaced, my next line will also be at 1½ inches. So now I'm all set to use my little piece of scrap card as the guide for drawing the pencil lines on each of my toppers, and this is part of step 2. So repeating that process on each of the toppers, and you're going to be using a pencil this time. So I'm going to put in my baseline at 1/4 inch, then measuring from the right hand edge, I'm going to draw a line at 3/4 inch, then at 1½ inches, and again at 1½ inches. And now I've got the positions for each of my punch. And I just wanted to show you, if you haven't got a gridded ruler like I have, the way to measure each of those lines. So this time you're just going to put a little point at 1/4 inch from the base, and then move along further along your cardstock and do another little point, and then you can join those 2 points together to get your straight line across the base of your cardstock. And it's the same principle for the remaining lines. So 3/4 inch twice, and then join the dots together. Measuring from the line that you've just drawn, you want to have 2 lines at 1½ inches. So one at 1½ and one at 3. So I'm doing the process both of the lines at the same time, 1.5 and 3, and then join each of those pairs of dots together. And you're going to repeat that process on all of your card toppers, and you're ready to punch. So I'm using the baseline to position my trunk and the centre line to run up the centre of my tree punch. I've got my punch upside down. Once I'm happy that the line is in position, then I'm going to press and cut out my first Christmas tree. And moving along and repeating that process, lining up the base of the tree and the centre of the tree and punching. Now you can do exactly the same process with your dies, so you're going to have to line up your dies on your pencil mark and then run it through your cutting machine and carry on and repeat the process for each of the 3 punches or dies that you're using. So once you've got those pencil lines in, it really is quick and easy to punch each of those Christmas tree shapes. And don't forget, don't throw those little Christmas trees away. We won't be using them on this card, but I'm pretty sure that you'll find other little things that you can use these trees on. You could even turn them into little gift tags for your parcels. And then it's time to erase all your pencil lines. And I'm going to call that step 2 complete. So next you need to punch out as many shapes as you have punched into your card toppers. So I've got 3 Christmas trees. I'm punching 3 for each card out of my cream card stock, plus 1 extra for the inside of the card. Next you need to make sure they're the right way round, ready for stamping. So I found the easiest way to do that was to position them in my card and then just transfer them onto my craft mat, ready for stamping. Next, you're going to need to choose a Christmas background stamp in order to stamp all of your little punched shapes, and of course choosing an ink to match the colour combinations that you're using. I'm going to be using Wendy Vecchi's archival ink, which is Red Geranium, and I've got this background stamp that is full of Christmas words. You could quite easily have something that perhaps got holly on, or some other little Christmas image, snowflakes for instance, and use that to stamp each of your little shapes. So making sure that I keep them all the right way around. If you do make a mistake and they don't fit back in the hole, just flip the shape over and stamp the other side. And then ink up your stamp, and I can get 2 trees in one go. So I'm going to stamp both of those trees at the same time. Now you're going to need to clean up in between little stamping sessions if things get a little bit messy. I'm trying to position those right back in the little gaps that I created with my first set of trees, and you'll get away with this for a couple of stampings, but then you will need to clean up ready to stamp your next lot of Christmas trees. So once all your trees are stamped, before you put the ink away, it's a good idea to stamp the greeting on the inside of your card. So make sure you really clean up your messy mat well, because we don't want any of this red ink transferring onto our main cards. So before you stamp, just attach one of your little Christmas trees to the inside of your card. I'm using glue, and I'm just positioning it in the bottom right hand corner of the card, and then I'm going to stamp the greeting that I've chosen using that same Red Geranium ink, and then I'm going to centre it in the space that I've got left. Just taking a little bit of time to make sure everything is lined up, and then pressing the greeting onto the inside of the card. And you're going to repeat that process for each of your card inners, and that will be step 3 complete. So if you don't have any red and white baker's twine, what can you do? I'm going to show you how to make this little twisted cord. You could easily use ribbon on this card, but I'm going to keep this step in because it's quite a useful thing to know and be able to use on other projects. I'm going to be using a cream cotton and a red embroidery thread to make my little cords. Now I started out with two lengths at 36 inches in order to make my little cords, but I'm going to show you on a shorter length because otherwise it doesn't all fit in the camera shot. So as I said, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm measuring two 12-inch pieces of the two contrasting colours, so one in the red and one in the cream cotton. When I eventually find the end of the cream cotton. So when you have two lengths exactly the same, then you're going to tie a knot in each end. And by tying the knots in each end, you can then just pop the thread over your two index fingers. So make sure those knots are halfway and then start to rotate one of those fingers. If you can do both at the same time, it will go quicker, but you'll find it more difficult with the longer length of thread, and you have to make sure that one is not unwinding the other if you choose to try and do both at the same time. I stick to one and keep rotating. Now, a couple of things that you'll need to think about when you're doing this. One is that you don't pull the thread too tight into your fingers and end up cutting into your fingers as you put the twists into the two threads. So you can see the twists getting tighter and tighter, and the other thing that you don't want to do is do this so tightly that both of your fingers start to lose circulation. So just two little things to work out for. I'm pretty sure that if you're pulling things too tightly, you will definitely feel that you're cutting into your finger, or if your fingers are turning blue, that you've got the threads too tight. So what you want to do, just to test the cord that you're making, is bring the two ends together and let the cord naturally twist together. So that's a little bit loose for me at the moment, so I'm going to add a few more little twists. So once you're happy with how tightly this spiral is coming together, you're going to put both of the loops onto one finger. Now this is where things get a little bit tricky because it naturally wants to immediately start to spring into that cord, and you just want to see if you can control that a little bit so it does it exactly at the halfway mark. So I'm just pulling it at the halfway mark and then letting it go, and it naturally wants to spiral and twist together. If you find that it doesn't do that very neatly, just run your fingers down it a few times and it will soon straighten out. Then you can let go of the loops that are around your finger and tie a knot to secure that spiral so that it doesn't come undone. So I'm just tying a little knot at the very end of the cord that I've created, and then I'm going to trim off those loops, and I'm just leaving enough to create a little pleasing tassel at the end of my cord. And then I know this is very short, but you'll have a longer length when you do it with the 36-inch lengths of cord, and then you're going to just tie a knot in exactly the same place at the other end of the cord, and then to create the tassel you're just going to snip off the very ends of that thread and they will undo and form your second tassel. Now I could have just tied ribbon or baker's twine around this, and we could have skipped this step, and you still can feel free to do that if you want to. I find this is a nice job to sit in front of the TV doing and create enough cords for each of your cards. Now you can see here that this is quite a snug fit, and if you tighten your cord more than I do, you could end up with a cord that is shorter than what you need to go around the top of your card. But I thought actually if you just tie the cord around, as you can see I've done here, you could end up with quite a loose cord, because it is quite difficult to tie the cord around a piece of card that isn't solid. The card is a little bit bendy. So I'm going to show you another method that works really well if you've got a short length of ribbon that you want to use, or a short length of cord in the case of this card here. So an alternative way of attaching the cord to the card. So this is my longer length of cord, and the first thing that I'm going to do is tie a knot to create my two little pieces that form the tassels that sit on the front of the card. So you just want to manipulate the lengths of cord so that they end up at roughly between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch long. So I'm just pulling my knot and shortening those little tassels so that they are both the same length. Once you're happy with this, and you can do exactly the same technique with ribbon, it's a really good way to make perhaps a piece of ribbon that's a bit shorter than you want it to go around a section of a card. So this is quite a good technique, even though you might not need it because your pieces of cord are long enough to wrap completely around the top of your card, but it also means that you do get a tighter finish with the wrap of the cord. So I'm going roughly about 1/4 of an inch down, or 3/8 of an inch down from the top of the card, and I'm just securing that end in place with a piece of double-sided tape. And I've paid attention to where the knot is on the front of the card before I snip that first piece of thread. So the knot is in the right place, and then I'm just pulling that piece of cord firmly around. And you can see my piece of cord was shorter than my card, but it doesn't matter. I've still managed to make it look like it's wrapping right the way around the top of that card. Looking at that, I would say perhaps my tassels are a bit more like an inch long. So whether you choose to make your own cords or to use cords that you already have in your stash, that's step 4 complete. And now we're moving on to step 5, which is assembling the card. So I'm going to take each of my little Christmas trees and create that shadow by offsetting them and attaching them to the card topper. So I'm just taking my glue and running it along the right hand edge of the Christmas tree. You don't need too much glue, and you're going to just offset your tree slightly. Imagine a shadow on the left hand side, and try and keep your Christmas tree shape matching all of those, or making an even gap all the way along that left hand edge. The other trick, as you can see here, is not to use too much glue because you don't want it to squeeze out onto the front of your card, and it really doesn't take much glue to hold these in place. So I'm just putting the glue along that right hand edge, and then using that just to hold the Christmas tree in place and slightly offsetting it from the left hand edge. And you'll be able to see the hole a little bit clearer when we put these toppers onto the front of the card. And you're going to repeat that step for all of your card toppers. So we've got all our card bases ready and our card toppers ready, and now we're going to stick the two pieces together. Now this time you could put them on flat if you want to, if you're thinking about the thickness of your cards for postage, or you can do as I'm going to do here, use foam pads to attach your card topper to your card base. Now you need to make a decision here about how flimsy your card topper is, because you're going to support that card topper with your foam pads. I always like to put them in the corners first, and I'm just removing the top off that sticky tape just to make sure that these foam pads stay in place. Just an extra security for those ends of thread. And then once I've got my 4 corners in position, I'm going to add a few more foam pads just to make sure that the whole panel is supported on that card front. You might need to chop some of your foam pads into pieces when you get near any sort of more delicate areas of your punches. And then once you're happy with how many foam pads you've got on the back of your card, you can peel off all the backing and stick it to your card front. And this is where you can see the full design of the card and those shadows appearing as you attach the topper to that red cardstock base. one final finishing touch, I'm just going to add some little gems to the top of each of my trees. And then finally 3 little gems in the bottom left hand corner of the card, and that's the card finished. So I would definitely recommend that you add your gems with a little touch of glue, even though I haven't done it for the purposes of this tutorial, because it really does make sure they don't ping off as you pop them into the envelope, or vice versa when your person who's receiving this Christmas card takes it out of the envelope to see the greetings that you have made for them this year. So that's card design number 1 for the Christmas is Coming series, and I really hope that it is helpful to you and gets you kick-started on making your Christmas cards this year. Don't forget, in this batch making process, you may well be able to get some of your family roped in and doing some of those jobs to get those cards prepared. You could form a family assembly line, get out the glue vine, a box of chocolates, or the pop and the chocolates in the case of the children, or hot chocolate, that would be nice, and get into the Christmas spirit together. This is a card that could easily be put together by all the members in your family if you want to rope them in to the fun of making the Christmas cards ready to send to your friends in December. So I don't know about you, considering I make all these card designs, I am always late getting my cards ready for the Christmas season, and it's always a rush to get them in the post come December. So this is my attempt at getting myself organised, and I hope along the way that I'm going to help you with your Christmas preparations. So don't forget, if you want to play along, hit that subscribe button, the like button, the share button, and let's get as many people to join in with this batch making card series as we can. And I look forward to sharing another design with you very shortly. So until then, thank you for watching. So if you want the PDF file that goes along with this series, click on this link, visit my blog, and on the right hand sidebar there is my email address. You can email me for this PDF file. Alternatively, click on this link and find out how to make this lovely Christmas slider card. If you like to make keepsake projects for the run up to Christmas, then why not try this one? This is my tag storage project, and you can buy the workshop for this over at my Etsy shop. And along with that, I made a video to show you how to turn that tag storage project into a beautiful advent in time for Christmas. And you can document each day all the things that you do in order to prepare for your family Christmas. Another project you'll find at my Etsy shop is this Christmas cake. It's called the Celebration Cake Mini, and I've made this one look just like a Christmas cake, and the beauty of that is that it hides a lovely mini album inside, so it makes a great project for Christmas. It's a great home decor piece, and you can put all your Christmas photos this year inside, and you can see that I intend to do exactly that. And back to my YouTube channel and click on this link to find out how I made this lovely altered clock, and you'll find other Christmas projects on this playlist. So I hope that's put you in the mood for Christmas, and I will see you again soon.